This guy has a big brain.
Watch how he handles this interaction with his mom.
Buh.
Jimmy, what the hell are you doing? Why are you smoking? That's bad for you. You don't know my perspective, Mom. Let's talk about perspective. Some old Grecian guy named Plato was one big thinker. His most important work relating to perspective was the Allegory of the Cave. In this story, Plato writes about his teacher, Socrates, and another person, Glaucon, in which he presents a hypothetical story in which perspective is the primary element. It starts out with a group of prisoners being born within a cave and having been chained up for the entirety of their lives. They have only been able to look forwards at the shadows being projected on the walls. There's a partition with a fire behind, and dolls walking along it, and they are being carried by other prisoners. To each of these prisoners, all they know and all they'll ever know is the shadows of things that exist in the above ground that they have no knowledge of. Then, one day, one of the prisoners is freed, yet he still resists leaving. He is forcibly dragged to the surface and forced to bear his eyes on the sun. Whilst immediately painful, his eyes adjust over time, and he slowly realizes the falsehood of his and all of his brethren's lives. Upon this realization, he heads back down to tell everybody else in the cave. Upon arriving, he is immediately faced with the challenge of sight, back in the darkness, after seeing the light of the sun, and is therefore ridiculed and humiliated, because in their eyes, he was ruined and destroyed his eyesight for nothing. They become so angry they even lash out and attempt to attack him for trying to free them. What is there to take away from this story? First things first, the story is an allegory, as it is a long metaphor to illustrate the different points of perspective and some of the pros and cons. The cave dwellers didn't even make an effort to understand the man who left their cave and had a different perspective. This is a very clear real-world example, as anybody can see this present extraordinarily often, especially with politics. They were close-minded and refused to even consider any ideas that didn't align exactly with what they had known previously. Whilst an obviously not realistic story by Plato, the purpose behind the metaphor is noticeably apparent within our everyday lives. I believe this to be one of Plato's most relatable works due to the similarity between close-minded people in our real lives and the ones in the cave.